Why are you being so kind to me right now? Because I care about you.
Everything is going to be okay.
A father named Ethan Walker stopped by the small corner cafe every morning during the coldest morning of the year, as the sun shone through the clouds. He was exhausted from working 2 part-time jobs and raising his daughter alone. Later that day, he found himself unable to sit still as a woman shivered and clung to her stomach, feeling as though she had been forced to leave her body due to the lack of food. Ethan observed that she had been fighting battles with no one and couldn't seem to pass by. Her broken face reminded him of the most difficult nights of his life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and strangers becoming miracles in each other's lives, please support us by liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing to our stories. He then proceeded to offer her a simple breakfast of toast, which was the same one he had purchased for himself because it was cheap, warm, reliable, resembling it. The woman's eyes caught him off guard with wide, fearsome ones, but then they shifted into a tense expression that made her chest tighten. She referred to herself as Clara Hayes and spoke softly but politely, as if apologizing for not explaining the reasons for her wet appearance, her shaking hands, and her inability to hold the bread. She simply said, "Thank you," as if the words themselves hurt to her. Ever since then, Ethan has been at the same table with her, always cold, quiet, and looking out the window, pretending to have ordered an extra sandwich every morning. Clara never asked for help, but she never offered it. Additionally, she claimed that he never requested assistance. She ate with the desperation of someone who had spent too much time pretending she didn't need to be saved. Ethan had little to eat, and his young daughter Lily, but it was all for nothing. It felt more natural for him to help Clara than to ignore her suffering. Over the next few weeks, he noticed changes such as her habitual wearing of the same clothes, her trembling in response to sudden noises, and her tendency to avoid eye contact with others. At times, she appeared to be crying all night. Occasionally, she tried to cover up her new bruises, and always sat in the same chair as if it was the only safe place she knew he never pried. He didn't want to frighten her. He ensured that she ate, cooled herself down with a cup of tea, and left the cafe with some strength. Despite not knowing the story behind her or having to endure nights of starvation due to being late for his check-ins, though he knew the agony of the world. Clara woke up one morning with rain pouring down on her, looking more troubled than ever. She swollen her eyes, breathed deeply, and her fingers trembled with the cup Ethan had placed in her hands. She didn't believe her, but instead, she cried silently and he ignored her. After a few days, the unusual routine transformed into solitary bonding. They reconciled and found solace in each other's midst. Then, one day, Clara didn't show up. Ethan waited longer than usual, checking the door every few seconds, worried about his stomach. She didn't come back the following day, and he was worried about something terrible happening 3 days later when the cafe door suddenly opened, leaving him in a state of panic. The situation was worse than anyone had predicted. The room was entered by a pair of big men in suits, with their reserved expressions resembling bodyguards. Behind them, there were 2 lawyers who were sharply dressed and carrying heavy files. Clara stepped nervously but remained composed but looked like her younger self, savoring the scent of her blood and finally being able to breathe. The lawyers went directly to Ethan, and everyone in the cafe remained quiet. Clara stood behind them, tears streaming down her eyes as if she were hearing him again for the first time. The primary lawyer introduced himself and explained that Clary had been missing for months. She was the daughter of a powerful businesswoman who had searched for her without delay. The lawyer stated that Clara had escaped from an abusive fiancé who had control over her finances, movement, and life. She had been hiding in her own bed, afraid of leaving anything to the world until she met someone who treated her like a child and provided her with all the necessary care. His unreserved benevolence was evident in every minute of his presence. Her family expressed their desire to thank him in person, but Clara stepped forward before they could proceed. In a trembling voice, she told Ethan that he had saved her life and reminded her of her worthiness beyond the pain she had gone through. She felt she only had the strength to continue living because she knew that his presence would be felt, and her mother wanted to do something for him when no one else had found her. A momentary pause followed as she recounted the moment. Ethan was taken aback by Clara's life, which lacked the luxury of money, power, lawyers, and bodyguards. He believed that she was simply an unrepentant woman. Despite the lawyer's insistence, Clara persisted, stating that her family wanted to pay for Lily's education, pay off Ethan's debt and relocate him to safer accommodation. Initially, Ejeni rejected the idea, but Clara calmly offered him assistance and emphasized that sometimes accepting help is also a courageous act. Despite their worldly divergence, gratitude didn't care about social status. Clara's family eventually became a quiet guardian for Ethan and his daughter, not because he asked, but because kindness had the power to increase. Suddenly, Ethel was no longer alone and felt unheard of. As her world was slowly unraveling, Clara made trips to the cafe, often without the fear that surrounded her eyes. She became close friends with Lily, a calming presence in their small-town home, and an inspiration that reminds people that simple acts of kindness can transform their lives. If this story resonates with you, please feel free to share this video or subscribe to our channel. Your generosity will help us share more heartfelt stories. In the event that you were in Ethan's position, what would you have done differently in the comments?